Mike Damergis here at Iona College with Lisa Marie Latino, author and broadcaster in my class, my esteemed class, the MCO 225 Intro to Broadcasting is here watching the show. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here.
Knowing you a long time, and one of the things we're going to talk about is your book here, 10 years later, and I got to say the cover is very, very catchy. I guess, what is that, a kiss with a New York skyline? Is that it?
You know, people think it's a kiss. It's so funny. So the book is about a girl that works at a sports talk radio station. I really reached for that one,
you really
as
did.
you know. So the heart is actually radio waves. And then the book is set in New Jersey, but she works in New York. So you're seeing New York from the Jersey side.
Got you. So very, very creative. So kind of like you got your first break at WFAN. That's where I got to know you as a young intern. And what was your first experience being a woman in an all-male dominant industry?
I loved it.
Didn't
it come across that I loved it? I chewed everyone's ear off.
Yes, did you? Yes,
Yes.
that's right. We used to call her Chatty. That was her nickname, Chatty. And I love the question you first met Boomer Esiason.
Okay, here we go. You
Boomer
love
Esiason,
the story.
former New York Jets quarterback, now host of Boomer Carton. And she goes to Boomer Esiason. So what qualifies you to be an expert football analyst? So Boomer goes, well, I played in the NFL for 12 years.
I don't remember it quite that way, but sure.
Something like
that,
yeah,
I guess.
So, but,
I had no filter.
You said talking about working in an all-male industry, and you didn't feel uncomfortable being in the guy's world.
Not at all, but probably because I grew up listening to the fan. I grew up listening to Mike and the Mad Dog. They were like my heroes. So walking in there, it felt very, very natural because I felt like I almost knew everyone because I grew up with them, basically.
And how did you first go about applying for the internship with WFAN?
Well, back in the day, you had to fax your resume. Can you believe that you had to fax? So it was funny. Mad Dog, Chris Mad Dog Russo, was doing a book signing, funny enough, at my college. And I was a sophomore at the time, and that was my dream internship, to intern at WFAN. So I asked him, like he knows about internships, but I'm like, so what do I have to do to intern? So he directed me to Juan Perez. Remember Juan back in promotions?
Vaguely.
Okay. And
Sorry,
Juan. It's fine. Love Juan. But he directed me to Juan, and Juan's like, well, you just have to fax your resume to this number. So I faxed. No response. No response. I would call, I would follow up, I would call, follow up. I think I annoyed them enough. Finally, like 4 months later, they invited me in for the interview.
So you're talking about how many phone calls in total? 10 phone calls?
Probably, between like October to April. Persistence is definitely key. So I was a sophomore at the time, and I was too young to get a production internship, so they started me out in promotions and marketing, which isn't what I wanted to do, but looking back, it's helped me in business, which we'll get to later. So summer of 2004, I worked in promotions and marketing. I was part of the Fan Van street team. I would go to events. I thought who the hell I was. I was 20 years old, your guys' age, running around New York City, hanging out with New York Yankees and New York Mets and Mike and Chris and,
The other Mike, not me.
Yeah. Well, you too.
Yeah, not me.
But,
Okay.
I just thought, like, not who I was, but it was the coolest experience ever.
And you have to be professional, too, when you're doing this. You can't get really, get starstruck.
No,
at all.
you can't ask for autographs.
You can't ask for autographs.
So,
and you're representing the station, so they have you act in a certain way.
Exactly. So I guess I did a well enough job that after my internship was over, they actually hired me part-time. So while I was still in school, I was working 3 days a week out of the Astoria office. That's where the fan was at the time. And, still doing what I was doing, but paid. Eventually, I got another internship in production, fall of 2005. So I was doing two things at once at the station, interning downstairs in the studio and then working upstairs in promotion. So I loved it. It was one of the best times in my life, and I'm still actually there in some capacity.
Yes, Lisa also does Giants pre and post game, so she's a producer on that for the Giants broadcast as well. Talk about, you go in there, right from school. What did you take afterwards during your time at the Fan? What did you learn that you didn't know going in?
How to conduct myself in a professional setting. I guess I'll use professional loosely, but still, there's protocol, there's a language, in an office. Even lingo within the industry that I didn't know. So it was just very cool getting that hands-on experience. And the cool thing was that everybody wanted to help you. If you had a question, no one made you feel like an idiot. Well, maybe you did a little. Probably you were the worst. No, I'm kidding. No, you were great. Everyone was great. I have friendships there that have, since 2004. Right. So, you're an unpaid intern.
Right.
When you're interning, like, take advantage. People aren't like mad at you because you are, a burden on someone's payroll. You're young, you're hungry. People want to help you. It makes them feel good as well. So that's why I always tell my interns who come and intern for my production company, intern as much as you can, because this is the time to build up your resume and your portfolio and to make these connections.
One of the things that you really have to be in this industry is creative and an entrepreneur in a lot of ways, and that's what you are. Now, when you graduated, you didn't go the traditional route, just working for a company. You really started your own production company.
Well, when I graduated, so I was still working at the FAN, which I still do to this day, but I actually got a full-time job with a television production company that produced shows for PBS, Channel 13. The name of the company was the Caucus Educational Corporation, and it's headed by Steve Adubato. I don't know if any of you guys up here know who that is, but he's very big time in New Jersey, very big time in the political world, and he hosted a couple shows, Caucus New Jersey, which was a political roundtable based on the hot button issues going on in the Garden State, and then kind of a looser talk show setting similar to this called One-on-One with Steve Adubato. So he was actually my professor at Montclair State and kind of took me under his wing, hired me to be a part-time producer, and then eventually hired me full-time a few months after graduation. So for 3 years, I was a producer for his shows. But, it was his company, and it exposed me to things outside of production. The marketing side of the business side of the business. It was a nonprofit production company, so he had to go out, get funders and people, working with hospitals and banks, and, he took me along the ride for some of those things. He was a teacher, so I would be his teaching assistant. He wrote books, so I would help him do research with his books. So,
So really, you're multifaceted. You're just not producing. You're the business aspect, the marketing, the writing aspect. You're just not the single facet of doing something.
And he told me, my aspiration at the time was to be kind of like a sideline reporter, a Susan Waldman type. And he's like, and that's great. And you could go to Green Bay and wherever and get your start, or you can come work for me. Get exposed to all these different things and learn about every facet, because, the industry is changing. That was like at the time that YouTube was starting and everything was starting to become digital. So, he was a really good salesman. I took him up on it, and I worked with him for 3 years, and it was an amazing 3 years. It was a great learning experience, but it was also my first full-time gig out of college, and there was more that I wanted to do. I had a resume, I had a lot of experience, but I wasn't getting to where I wanted to be. There's only so many jobs with mainstream media outlets. So, I kind of had a light bulb moment when I was 25 years old. Crazy.
Usually it takes people a little longer to get that light bulb moment.
Crazy, but...
It took me till I was 40, so...
Yeah, no, it's fine, but I had a light bulb moment. I'm like, you know what? I could do this myself. So I quit my job with Steve. And
so you don't have a job. You have a full-time job.
Yes.
You don't have a
Benefits.
job. Benefits. Salary. You're living at home.
Living at home.
Saving a little money. Go out with your girlfriends on the weekend if you want. And you quit your job.
And I quit my job.
And what was that conversation with your parents like?
At the time, they supported it because I was going through something personal where and you know what I'm talking about. That's when you teach a psych class, we could talk about that. Not me, nothing to do with me, but crazy situation I was going through at the time. So I figured if I had to start over personally, I was going to start over professionally. So they were actually very supportive because they were like, maybe you needed this kick in the butt. It was a broken engagement. You know what? You can Google Cake Boss breakup cake, and you can see the whole story there. Yeah. Oh, you saw that episode? Yes. That's me. Yeah. That's hysterical. Yes,
Yeah.
that was it.
That was a short engagement.
That
let's
was
just say.
very short engagement. I mean, that's my next book.
We used to talk about it during the Giants broadcast too.
Yeah,
as
remember
well.
I told you that? It was me, Mike, and Jeff Nelson from the Giants. Do you
Yeah,
remember? From the Yankees.
yeah.
Do you remember that? At a Giants game. Crazy. So when that happened, the breakup cake thing, that's when I'm like, I got to make like a change and, do something about my life. So anyway, what was the question? We just got off on a tangent.
I've totally lost. Okay, so so you tell your parents,
my parents,
you're
yes,
quitting
so
your
they
job,
thought-
you got a full-time job,
Yes.
benefits, you were engaged. I mean, things were going good.
Things
you were
were going good,
engaged. You had a
yeah.
full-time job. You're living at home. Your life's all set, and all of a sudden everything goes topsy-turvy.
Yes, topsy-turvy. So they were very supportive because they're like, well, maybe this is what you need. You could go out, be creative, and get your mind off of what's happened to you. So I went and I did that. Originally, I started my production company with 2 other people that I graduated college with. As you know, though, owning a business is a 200% effort that you have to put in. So, and I love them very dearly, but it was very clear that they weren't as invested as I was. Originally it was set up so someone would do the editing, because as you know, editing is a full-time gig.
Takes most of the time.
Yeah, someone would be technical, camera, lighting, audio, business, contracts, all that stuff. And I would kind of be the face of the company, writing, producing, on air, that sort of thing, marketing. When I parted ways with them only a couple months in, all of a sudden I had to take on everything. I left my job, I told the world that I was starting this, so I kind of had to deliver at that point. So
where do you go? Okay, I'm starting my own production company. All right, how do you go about getting business? You have the skills, you know how to host, you know how to edit, you know how to write, you have all those skills, but where do you go to get work?
Well, so that broken engagement, I sold the ring. And with that money, I know, well, hey, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Unfortunately, that's the second worst thing.
Did he ask for the ring back?
No.
Yes.
No.
You asked for the ring back? Yes, no,
No.
maybe?
I can't believe I'm talking about this, but it's part of the story. What? Well, yeah. The book is kind of, all right, but we'll get into that. No, he didn't ask for the ring. So I took that money, my engagement money, I invested in a camera, a microphone, and a laptop, and editing software, $4,000. That's what I started my company with.
And then where do you go though? How do you find work?
What I did, because my, aspirations
because
were...
you're not connected to anybody. You're not connected with the school. You can't say I'm Lisa Marie Latino from blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so this is what I did. So to establish myself as this multifaceted producer, I would go to red carpet events in the city. I had business cards made up, and I would talk my way onto movie premieres and charity red carpets, and I would interview, Julianne Moore and Amanda Seyfried and Matt Bomer and Tiffany Amber Thiessen and Giants and Yankees.
So you were on one-man crew basically, looking and see what events were in the city and just kind of forcing your way in on a lot of this.
I got into Derek Jeter's Sports Illustrated party when he was named Man of the Year. I talked my way in. John Sterling recognized me from another red carpet, got me in. That kind of thing. Plus my connections from the Giants and the fan, that didn't hurt me.
Sure.
That obviously aided me. And I would cut these videos, put them on the computer, and people noticed. So my alma mater, Montclair State, they were a huge help in helping me get my business off the ground. People would call the university wanting videos done, corporate people.
And they'd send them
and
your
they
way?
would farm some of that work to me. And again, I started Long Shot Productions, wanting to get a talk show for myself, producing it myself. But then when this corporate work started coming through, it was money. I had to make money. So that kind of took a back seat, and I started doing, productions for corporate, which again kind of took me off track, but also opened up a lot of doors for me because it led me to this new age media and, getting to be creative and coming up with campaigns for other people that have only helped me too. So, everything worked out for a reason, and today, we work with about 20 to 30 different corporations in the tri-state area for years, working on all of their media needs.
So you've established yourself in New Jersey now with doing the corporate videos and everything, but you're still part of doing a lot of stuff with the Giants. doing promotion stuff, TV work. You also, when James Gandolfini passed away, I saw your piece, was outstanding.
Thank you.
How did you go about putting that together and contacting the Gandolfini family?
So one of my clients is the biggest parade, funny enough, in New Jersey, one of the biggest, the Morris County Columbus Day Parade.
All these damn Italians.
I know, I'm so Italian, it's like, despite my last name, people think I'm Spanish, but so Italian, it's crazy. So they're one of my clients, and when James passed away, you know, he's like a cult icon in New Jersey, obviously. I mean, I cried as if it was a family member. So we wanted to honor James, you know, post-death, unfortunately. So, you know, I contacted the town of Park Ridge, you know, put my producer skills to work. And, you know, Park Ridge was on board. That's the town that he was from. Connected me to his sister, his best friend, someone he did a lot of charity work with. And we put together this mini documentary that aired at the parade's dinner in front of 500 people. But the town of Park Ridge also wanted the piece as part of a tribute that they put together, like actually 3-4 years ago to this day. They named a street after him. They invited the cast. Then afterwards there was a big dinner and we aired the documentary. It was really, really cool, and it was a great way to give back.
And how much attention did you get from doing that documentary? Because he's such a high-profile character. You know, doing something, you know, covering a parade in New Jersey is small compared to what James Gandolfini was. So after he passed away and you Google him on YouTube or whatever, I'm sure your piece comes up, and that must have garnered a lot of attention for you.
Oh, the piece has gotten thousands of hits. The Star Ledger covered it, NJ.com, local papers and blogs in the area covered that. But that's why I love doing what I love to do. I know you said you hate the term think outside the box. That's my whole life. Like, I don't have a conventional story. I didn't like... Or
conventional life.
Or conventional life or anything. I didn't go to Montana and, you know, cut my chops there and then work my way back to New York. I'm New York, New Jersey. I can't really make it anywhere else, I don't think. So I wanted to cut my chops here, but I'm not a patient person. I didn't want to do it the traditional way. You know, I love the freedom to get to do projects that I'm passionate about. I love the flexibility that provides in my scheduling. So, you know, this parade hires me to do their media, their emceeing, that sort of thing. But I wanted to take them to the next level by doing this Gandolfini piece. And I think that's why I've been able to sustain a lot of the relationships that I've been able to, because it's not just the run-of-the-mill, play by the rules stuff. It's kind of defining your own set of rules, and that's really cool.
And in a lot of ways, it's different every day. And you talk about relationships, it leads to something else. Always something leads to something else. When we had Stephen Costello in here, and also Pete Kelly with the Pat Quinn Foundation, everything. You know, one thing always leads to something else, and you always got to remember that, you know, you don't burn bridges, and you always should leave yourself, you know, give a card and have, you know, do good work, because you never know when you're going to need that other person or meet them down the road for something.
And be nice to everyone. You know, that was the number one thing. I think I'm a nice person.
You are a nice person.
But you know,
you're a lot nicer than I am.
No, but I mean, I just, you know, even if you don't be fake, but I mean, even if, you know, someone rubs you the wrong way or gives you a hard time, like, don't take it personally, you know, because you don't want to establish yourself as someone.
No, people always want to work with someone they like and someone that's pleasant.
And in this industry, as you know, you have to be flexible. You have to think on your feet. You have to be on your toes.
And don't say, I can't do it.
Find a way.
What do I need to do?
Don't ever say, that's not my job.
Right.
You know what?
Exactly.
That may not be your job, and you may not want to do that job, but if your higher up wants you to do it, you better figure out a way.
Figure out a way. That's basically it. One of my first jobs was in junior hockey when I was up in Toronto. And I knew nothing about junior hockey, but somehow I figured out. Let's talk about the book. 10 years later, again, love the cover.
Thank you.
Okay, very, very catchy. And take us, you know, from the start of it and how this came about.
Okay, so I gave you a little bit of my story. You know, I went out on my own at 25 to start my own business.
Failed engagement.
Failed engagement.
Quit full-time job.
Yes,
Start your own production company.
So, you know, around the time of my high school reunion, everyone was getting married, buying a house, having babies, and I was light years away from doing all of that, obviously. So, I had a lot of, I wasn't jealous. I was very happy, for my friends and everything. It had nothing to do with that. But, you're reflecting on your own life and you're like, well, I'm not doing those things. Like, what's wrong with me? Why, is this happening to me? You have those moments. But, as you open up and you start to talk to people, no one has it figured out, even at 40, even at 50, no one has it figured out. So, I was absorbing all of these stories, my own story, and I started forming characters in my head. Privately, I do a ton of writing, a ton of journaling, and I've always wanted to write a book. So I found a topic that I was passionate about, which is 10 years later. So 10 years later is about a girl. Her name is Carla D'Agostino, lives in New Jersey with her overbearing Italian parents. I know, sounds a little bit familiar.
And they can relate to that, right?
A little bit, yeah. You don't have to be Italian, but it's just part of her story. And she gets to save the date to her 10-year high school reunion, and she freaks out. She's still living at home. She's still trying to make it at her sports talk radio station that she's been producing at since she's in college. No boyfriend. Friends all seem to be on their way, doing great things. So she's like, enough. I've had enough being a loser. So I'm going to accomplish everything that I haven't been able in the 9 years since high school graduation in this 1 year, so I can go to my reunion looking like a rock star. So you follow her on that journey of self-discovery. Very funny, very romantic comedy, like you said. And, you go on this journey with her along the way, and you realize alongside with her, a lot of what she's looking for, she's already had, whether it's the confidence to go after her dreams, the skill set to be an on-air talk show host, that's what she wants to do. Her love of her life, maybe not, I don't want to give the book away, was right there all along, that sort of thing. Maybe her family isn't too bad. Maybe they have a point in being a little strict and tough in this crazy day and age. So you follow her on those realizations. Obviously, the end of the book is the reunion, so you see it all come into place or not into place. And it was the time in my life writing it.
What are some of the characters you may have took from real life and incorporated in here? Can you give any of that away? Maybe some conversations that you incorporated in the book? So
people really think that Carla is me. She's not me. I mean, there's parallels, but she is a character that has her own set of circumstances, her own problems and issues and personality quirks. But obviously, I drew on some of my own experiences to form the character. My mother read the book. The mother in the book plays a very prominent role. And every 2 seconds, my mom's texting me, calling me, I'm going to kill you. Again, Nancy D'Agostino is not my mom. Again, she's her own person, but there were conversations that my mom, or quips that my mom maybe said to me along the way. And, my mom was like, well, you definitely listen to me when I talk, that's for sure. One of my favorite characters to write was the baseball player that Carla comes in contact with, Miguel Martinez. He is the hotshot New York Yankees center fielder, totally made up, but when you read him, it's like the stereotypical Alex Rodriguez, Matt Harvey. You know where I'm going at.
I know where you're going with that.
Yeah, and it was so delicious to write. Mm-hmm. It was so much fun. So writing Miguel and Nancy, those were probably my two favorite characters to write.
And since you wrote the book, when you do write a book, it kind of, people look at you differently. There's one thing being a TV producer, or even a talk show host, but when you write a book, people look at you a little differently as well. It's it's something people hold, and it's something that's just not online. It's something tangible.
It's insane, and you guys all know, production work takes hours. The planning, the scripting, the shooting, the editing, weeks, months sometimes, and you don't get the glory. All right, thank you. You get phone calls if something goes wrong, but if something goes right,
yeah, can you make an extra edit here? This isn't right. This doesn't time out.
And then at the end of the day, everything works out, and they have their product, and without much fanfare, you move on to the next thing. Fine. This was like the easiest thing I've ever done. What I did was, throughout the course of a year and a half, is get hotel rooms at 4 or 5 days at a time. I lied to everyone. I said, I'm going away on business. I have a shoot in Pennsylvania. I got a shoot in Florida. And it wasn't a complete lie. I was away on business, but I would shut my cell phone off and all I would do was write. It was like a vacation. I mean, it was like in a hotel on like Route 46 in New Jersey, but it was a vacation. And literally all I would do was write. And I did this about 4 or 5 times, like I said, over the course of a year and a half until the manuscript was done. And that's it. In my pajamas, no makeup, didn't have to talk to anybody. And that's why I'm getting phone calls from all of our friends, you know, Kevin Burkhardt, Chris Carlin, like, oh my God, you wrote a book. All of a sudden, people are like, oh my God. I'm like, really? Okay.
I'm the same person I was. I just happened to write a book. That's
you know, okay, fine. You know, I mean, the outpouring of people has been amazing. You know, you could do all these great things, but writing a book puts you up there like making a CD. A Grammy Award-winning CD. I don't know, but it's really, really cool. But again, I put on my entrepreneur hat with the book because I did not go the traditional way.
So you got the book now. You're working
Yes.
with the Giants. So what are you working on next? What's over the horizon for you?
Vacation.
A little
That'd
vacation?
be nice.
Okay.
Promoting the book. I self-published, so I did not. Like I said,
and you have it on Amazon, right? It sells on Amazon.
And I published through Amazon.
Okay.
I published through CreateSpace. I tried to get the traditional, get an agent, get a book deal. Very hard to do with fiction if you don't have that celebrity or notoriety. The publishing industry is changing, just like our industry, radio, TV, everything else. So once I got rejected by 50 some odd agents, I'm like, all right, I'm sick of this. So I got an editor, I got a proofreader, I got the cover artist, and I just went ahead, did it myself, published in October. And now it's just getting it out there. I mean, the goal for 10 years later, it reads like a movie. It would make a kick-ass movie. Can I say ass on here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it would make a kick-ass movie. And, you know, my goal is to get this in front of
maybe they could do a webisode. Do I see a little webisode going on here? Some thoughts about
Maybe.
that? Huh? Get a little webisode?
is to get this in front of the right people and get it turned into, I mean, I have no shame. When the book came out the same week, I love Kelly Clarkson. Does anyone? I love her. She came out with a book the same week. I went to her book signing. I covered it for HIP New Jersey because she launched her book in New Jersey, and I handed her the book. Like, hey, we're book sisters.
Oh, nice.
She probably thinks I'm insane because I love Kelly. Oh my God. She's like mentioned in the book. It's crazy. And I gave her the book. I did a shoot not even like a week later with Sarah Jessica Parker, who came out with her own imprint. Here, read my book. I don't care, you know, because you never, ever, ever know.
Especially when you're traveling around, you might have an extra book in the bag. Hey, here's my book. You're traveling, you know, give it a read, and people are appreciative of
My
it.
goal is to give it to Steve Tisch. If I ever see Steve at a Giants, because he makes movies, you guys know.
Well, my friend has a deli, and the Tisch family eats there. So if you want to give me a book, I could just.
Okay, that's
drop it
fine
off
too.
there. Okay,
That's fine
but,
too. But yeah, so that's another. You don't have any fear. If you want to be an audio producer, if you want to be on air, whatever you want, just do it. And I'm not perfect. I mean, I've made mistakes. I've let fear kind of grip me from, you know, releasing my full potential. You know, you were asking me before about being the only female in sports, you know, in a sports setting. That is intimidating. Everyone's talking about stats and figures and this and even to this day, I sometimes bite my tongue because get afraid sometimes of giving my own spin. Because what if I'm wrong? You shouldn't be like that.
Right,
But it's a work in progress.
Yeah, no,
Everyone
and
is.
you got to do your research, and you have to work harder as,
Yeah.
as a female in sports to prove your worth. Anyway, the book again is 10 Years Later, Lisa Marie Latino. I want to thank you so much for coming today here
Thank
at
you
Iona
for having me.
College, and thank you very much.